Call to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Prince? Mr. Corman?
Here.
Mr. Pavoni?
Here.
Ms. Perez?
Here.
Mr. McGurven?
Here.
Ms. Witchy?
Here.
Mr. Person?
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, one absent.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
I move the Councilman Prince be excused.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Corman, that Councilmember Prince be excused. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any opposition? Okay, it passes. First item on the agenda is a proclamation.
Okay, this proclamation is for Ready and Renton Month. Whereas September has been designated by the President of the United States of America as National Preparedness Month and coincides with the City of Renton's Ready and Renton Emergency Preparedness Campaign. And whereas Renton has experienced natural and human-caused disasters in the past, and scientific evidence indicates the city and the region remain vulnerable to disasters in the future. And whereas investing in the preparedness of ourselves, our families, our businesses, and our neighborhoods can reduce injuries, fatalities, and economic devastation from disasters. And whereas the basic steps of emergency preparedness are the same for everyone: make a plan, build a kit, and help one another to become self-sufficient for up to 2 weeks. And whereas because staying informed is a vital part of responding appropriately to emergencies, all members of the Renton community are encouraged to locate and bookmark their sources of emergency information in advance at rentonwa.gov, to sign up for Alert Renton, and to follow the city's social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. And whereas there is great language diversity within the community, and Renton residents and businesses are encouraged to share with their neighbors the translated information at bit.ly/preparedness publications, and to relay any emergency messages to help their neighbors understand and take appropriate life-saving actions. And whereas Ready and Renton creates an important opportunity for every member of the Renton community to prepare their homes, businesses, and neighborhoods for any type of emergency. Now therefore, I, Dennis Law, Mayor of the City of Renton, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2018 to be Ready and Renton Month in the City of Renton, and encourage all residents to formulate a preparedness plan. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Renton to be affixed this 20th day of August 2018. And this is signed by Mayor Dennis Law.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
I move the proclamation be approved as read.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Pavoni, that this proclamation be adopted as read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And it's our pleasure to present this to Deborah Needham, who's our Emergency Management Director, and she knows everything about being prepared.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you give me a lot of credit. I'm not sure I know everything about being prepared, because I think there's some other survivalists out there who might know a little bit more than me. I do think
I
it's
haven't met
interesting.
him yet.
You haven't? Okay, I'll introduce you to my father. I think it's interesting that today we have wildfire smoke in the air again, and I've been told this is what we can expect in future summers. And I'm reminded of what we went through in 2014 with the Regency Woods fire, where over 2,000 people were evacuated swiftly by door-to-door notifications. We have many other means at our disposal, but I want to remind people that at any time an emergency can happen, and it's so important that you know how to get the information about the emergency. And if you haven't done your preparedness in advance, you're fleeing in the face of an emergency with nothing but what you have, the clothes on your back or what you have in your car. We've put an extra emphasis over this past year, which we will be continuing, to make sure that we're reaching out to our diverse language communities in Renton. And so I want to encourage people, the link that was in the proclamation, there's also lots more information available on our website at rentonwa.gov/emergencies. Everything you need to know, I bet you can find it from starting there. So I'd like to encourage everyone to get ready in Renton, and thank you for the time to put this out there before the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Okay, next item is a public hearing, and I think we've got Jim Seitz that's going to lead this.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. For the record, I'm Jim Seitz, Transportation Director for the City of Renton, and I'm joined by Vanjie Garcia, who is our Transportation Planning and Programming Coordinator. And I know you've heard me give the staff presentation for the public hearing many years in a row, so tonight I'm going to hand it off to Vanjie to do the presentation.
Well, greetings, mayors, council members, and Harrison, and members of the public here today. Thank you for the opportunity to present the update to the TIP for 2019 to 2024. This document is a planning tool for the development of transportation facilities that supports the city's mission and vision, helps achieve the goals of the Renton Business Plan, and reflects the involvement of city residents and elected officials. The annual update to the TIP is essential because it is required by law, allows us to apply for federal and state grants, and helps establish coordination opportunities with other agencies. This update includes an all-portrait layout reading format instead of a mix of portrait and landscape, a public-facing interactive map, and updated projects information as well as new projects. The TIP organizes the projects in these categories. The other programs category consists of planning efforts and the 1% for the arts. The percentages in the chart that you see uses proposed expenditures by category type. This slide shows a summary of funding categories over the next 6 years. Our consistent funding stream is the business and occupation share and the vehicle fuel tax. As you can see, transportation relies heavily on grants for implementation and continuously seeks grants opportunities. Since the last TIP update, the city has been awarded 8 grants totaling almost $20 million. New projects were added to the TIP to acknowledge the newly awarded grants and in participation for the future grant applications. Some new projects come from long-range planning efforts like the Downtown Civic Core Action Plan and the outreach from the Trails and Bicycle Master Plan update. I'd like to highlight some recent construction projects. Sunset Lane Northeast, or Northeast 10th Avenue improvements, were completed in the Highlands Community Planning Area. The roadway improvements complement the first phase of the new Sunset Neighborhood Park. Another project is the Phase 1 of the Connecting Downtown Renton improvements that were completed along Main Street in Bronson between 3rd and Mill. This project also improved non-motorized accessibility and created new public plaza areas. Pedestrian improvements on 116th Avenue Southeast and the Benson area were also completed. This sidewalk project created a safer place to walk from Southeast Petrovisky Road northward to the post office. And in the next year or so, we are expecting these projects to be in construction, or get ready for construction. Once adopted, the interactive map will have an active link on the city's website. The link located under project details leads to individual TIP sheets, as well as additional graphics if they're available. So at this time, I know that adoption might be, from what happened at the Transportation Committee, we're going to delay finalizing the TIP today, but our recommendation is to approve the annual updates and present the resolution for reading and adoption.
Thank you, Angie. Excuse me. This is a public hearing, and do we have any correspondence? Megan?
No, we do not.
Okay. And I don't have anybody here that signed up to testify for this public hearing. Is there anybody that wanted to testify? All right, what's the wish of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Witchy, second by Mr. Corman, that we close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So I know this will be going back to the Transportation Committee for more additional review, and we'll be coming back to the council in a couple weeks. Thank you, Angie. Thank you,
Yeah,
Jim.
thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to an agenda item, which is the appeal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. McIrvin.
The Planning and Development Committee has a committee report in lieu of a much long, instead of the long motion they made last week.
This committee report is regarding the Wilson Park 1 appeal. On August 9th, 2018, the Planning and Development Committee heard the closed record appeal hearing arguments of the appellants, Robert and Doravan Wilson, on behalf of their plat development, Wilson Park 1, and their representative, attorney Clara Park. The city's Community and Economic Development Department was represented by Senior Assistant City Attorney Leslie Clark. No other parties of record spoke or made themselves known at the closed record appeal hearing. The committee recommends that council adopt the joint stipulation agreement and agreed order that was agreed upon and signed by both parties on August 17th, 2018, as the final decision in the matter regarding the Wilson Park 1 appeal of hearing examiner decision denying request for extension of plat expiration.
Mr. Mayor. Oh.
Yes, Mr. McIrvin.
Both parties, as you heard, did agree, so the Planning and Development Committee will recommend that you concur with that, and so with that, I'll recommend that council concur with the recommended action of the Planning and Development Committee.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McIrvin, second by Ms. Witchy, that council concur with the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, and I want to thank the Community and Economic Development staff and also Leslie Clark for the City Attorney's Office for all the work you did. This has been a long, drawn-out process, and I think that staff and the City Attorney worked really hard on behalf of protecting the city's interests as well as working to see if they could find happy ground for the property owners, and so thank you very much. Okay, moving on to administrative report, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor, Honorable Council members. I have two items this evening. The first is the Mayor's Weekly Newsletter was awarded first place in the nation for external newsletters by the National Association of Government Communicators. And to get a subscription to that newsletter with timely and relevant information, subscribe at the City of Renton website at rentonwa.gov /MNL. And then the second item is information about preventive street maintenance, traffic impact projects, and road closures happening this week can be found at the city's website, rentonwa.gov /traffic impacts. There are probably over 15 projects that may be affecting city streets in Renton. So if you're interested in looking at those streets that may impact your drive to work or drive within the community, we recommend you go to the website. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. We have nobody signed up for audience comments, so we're moving on to the consent agenda. We have 7 items for council consideration. Are there any items a council member would like pulled for discussion?
Mr. Mayor, item B.
Any other items?
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes,
move
Mr.
the
Person.
council approve the consent agenda minus item B.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Person, seconded by Mr. Corman, that council concur with the consent agenda minus item B. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Person.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, item B is just the setting of a hearing on an annexation. And in the written correspondence, it had a typo, and it said, it should have said 20.5 acres instead of 14 acres. And we wanted to correct that before we set the public hearing for September 10th. So with that, I move that the item B be adopted with that correction.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Person, seconded by Mr. Corman, that item B of the consent agenda be approved by the council for a public hearing to be set on September 10th. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, moving on to unfinished business. Mr. Person.
No unfinished business.
Okay, Mr. Corman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have two Transportation Committee reports to present tonight. I did want to just clarify that even though the agenda shows a possible report out for the TIP, just as you mentioned, the committee will be holding that till the next council meeting. So we have a couple of reports on road closures.
Okay, the first Transportation Aviation Committee report is regarding temporary total closure of East Valley Road. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the temporary total closure of East Valley Road between 1701 East Valley Road and 2501 East Valley Road and Southwest 19th Street between 200 Southwest 19th Street and 204 Southwest 19th Street for up to 4 calendar days between August 24th and August 27th, 2018, to construct the Rolling Hills Creek Culvert Crossing at East Valley Road as part of the WashDOT I-405 SR 167 Interchange Direct Connector Project. The committee further recommends the resolution regarding this matter be presented for reading and adoption. And this is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, yes, Mr. Corman.
I move the council concur in the committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Corman, second by Mr. Person, that council concur with the Transportation Aviation Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the second committee report is regarding temporary complete closure of Southwest 19th Street. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the temporary complete closure of Southwest 19th Street between 100 Southwest 19th Street and 204 Southwest 19th Street for up to 10 calendar days between September 4th and September 30th, 2018, to construct the Rolling Hills Creek Culvert tie-in to the existing 60-inch storm line as a part of the WashDOT I-405 SR 167 Interchange Direct Connector Project. The committee further recommends the resolution regarding this matter be presented for reading and adoption, and this is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move the council concur in the committee report.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Corman, seconded by Mr. Person, that council concur with the Transportation Committee report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it. Okay, moving on to Mr. Pavone.
Okay, yes, Mr. Mayor, I have one ordinance that's up for second and final reading. And over the weekend, we had some conversations over whether we are heading in the right direction with this ordinance. So I'd like to pull it and send it back to committee and take one more look at it and make sure we're heading in the correct direction. So with that, I move that we move the ordinance back into the Public Safety Committee.
Second.
Okay, we've moved down to legislation, but that's okay. We'll move,
Isn't that what you asked?
the
Finished business.
motion is to pull the ordinance for second and final reading this evening and send it back to committee. And that's ordinance number 5886. That was moved by Mr. Pavone, second by Mr. Corman. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it.
And I also have no unfinished business.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Perez,
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. McGarland,
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
and Ms. Witchy.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Moving back to legislation.
Can do it again.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Corman.
Under legislation, I would like to make a similar motion for item A, that we pull the TIP resolution from the agenda for adoption at a later date.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Corman, seconded by Ms. Perez, that resolution number 4351 be pulled from the agenda this evening and to be brought back at a later date. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, so the first resolution for adoption is a resolution of the City of Renton, Washington, authorizing the temporary total closure of the intersection of East Valley Road and Southwest 19th Street between 1701 East Valley Road and 2501 East Valley Road to the north and south, and 200 Southwest 19th Street and 204 Southwest 19th Street to the east and west.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Corman, second by Ms. Perez, that council adopt this resolution as read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And the second resolution for adoption is a resolution of the City of Renton, Washington, authorizing the temporary total closure of Southwest 19th Street between 100 Southwest 19th Street and 204 Southwest 19th Street.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Corman, second by Ms. Perez, that this resolution be adopted as read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, moving on to new business. Mr. Person.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. For Councilman Ed Prince, I'll announce that next Monday, August 27th, will be a council holiday and there'll be no council meeting. And on September 3rd, 2018, Monday, is Labor Day and there'll be no council meeting. And on September 10th, Monday, September 10th, 2018, the Committee of the Whole will meet in the conferencing center to discuss the CAC report deliberations, CIP deliberations, Renton RFA separation from city support transition. And for the Finance Committee, we'll meet on Monday, September 10th at 4:30 p.m. in the council conference room. 3 topics: office mail metering services contract, vouchers, and emerging issues in finance. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Corman.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Pavoni.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have one meeting to announce. On September 10th, Monday, the Public Safety Committee meeting will be canceled. That is all,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Perez.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. McGurven.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just want to announce that the Planning and Development Committee will be meeting on Thursday, August 23rd at 4:30 p.m. in the council conference room. There are 3 items on the agenda. First is Title IV, Docket 13, Groups A, B, and C. Then we'll have a briefing on multifamily property tax exemptions, and then finally emerging issues in CED. That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Witchy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on this Thursday, August 23rd at 4 p.m., the Utilities Committee will be meeting in the council conference room. We will be discussing Varma and Ram Latecomers Agreement, Annual Cedar River Sediment Survey and Analysis Agreement, Heather Downs Retention Pond Water Quality Retrofit Project Grant Agreement, and emerging issues in utilities.
Okay, thank you very much. What's the wish of the council?
We adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Pavoni, that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.